Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're diving straight into one of the most confusing, frustrating, and just emotionally draining dynamics in human psychology. If you've ever been locked in a psychological battle with someone who absolutely refuses to take accountability, you know exactly how maddening this can be. Have you ever asked a narcissist to apologize? You hurt them. You want them to acknowledge it. You want them to say, "I'm sorry," but they don't. Instead, they deny what they did, blame you, turn it around on you, act like you wronged them, and you're left wondering, why won't they just apologize? Well, in this explainer, I'm explaining the psychology of why narcissists can never genuinely apologize. It's the question that just echoes in your head on a loop, isn't it? Have you been waiting for that one moment of clarity where they finally just see the pain they've caused you? We wait, sometimes for literally years, hoping that if we just explain it the right way, or if we just show them how much we're hurting, the light bulb will finally click on. But to understand why that moment never, ever arrives, we have to look past that confident, arrogant mask they wear. We need to look directly at the hard, clinical science of ego protection. So let's get into it. When we peel back the layers, clinical psychiatry, especially studies on narcissistic personality disorder, reveals something pretty shocking. Despite acting so grandiose, narcissists actually harbor this deep, unconscious, implicit shame. Think about a normal daily interaction. Say you gently point out that they forgot to grab the milk, or maybe a joke they made was a little out of line. For a healthy person, apologizing for that is no big deal. It's just a small mistake. It doesn't define who you are. But for a narcissist, taking personal responsibility triggers this massive, hidden reservoir of shame. Their self-image is so incredibly fragile that admitting fault threatens a total ego collapse. Their whole psychological setup is basically built to avoid feeling that explicit shame at all costs. They literally cannot afford to be wrong, because to them, being wrong means being entirely worthless. You can really see the stark contrast in how we process conflict. A healthy apology is simple. It's an admission of error plus genuine regret. It's condition-free. It takes personal accountability. It sounds like, "I am so sorry I said that. It was totally uncalled for." But the narcissistic response? That operates entirely as a defense mechanism. Instead of taking accountability, they pivot straight to blame shifting. They'll say something like, "Well, I wouldn't have yelled if you hadn't annoyed me first," or they get aggressive or offer some incredibly vague statement that completely dodges the real issue. They literally cannot cross the bridge to a healthy apology because, in their minds, that bridge is actively on fire with their own insecurities. Vulnerability feels like an actual lethal threat to them. To really grasp why they won't apologize, we have to understand what makes them tick. And the core concept here is narcissistic supply. Because their internal self-esteem is so fundamentally broken, they can't self-regulate their own ego. They have to outsource it. They use external social feedback, validation, and most importantly, your emotional reactions to temporarily stabilize themselves. Think of it like a bucket with a giant hole in the bottom. No matter how much water you pour in, it just keeps draining out, right? So they need a never-ending stream of water just to feel full. For a narcissist, that water is your reaction. They use you as a mechanical tool to stabilize their fragile internal state. Now, here is the shocking truth about that supply. You'd think they just want positive stuff, admiration, compliments, status, but that only makes up a fraction of what they feed on. A massive chunk of it actually comes from conflict, from drama, from fear and tears. Clinically, this is called negative supply. And why is this so intoxicating to them? Because when you're in the middle of an argument, when you're crying, explaining, begging, or having a total emotional breakdown, you're actually proving their dominance. Your pain proves to them that they have power and control over you. It makes them feel incredibly significant and alive. So they don't just tolerate the drama, they actively orchestrate it to keep their bucket full. Which naturally leads to the question, how can they sit there, watch you cry, and not feel absolutely terrible? How can someone look into the eyes of a person they claim to love, see total devastation, and just extract this painful negative supply without a single ounce of guilt? To answer that, we have to look straight at the neuropsychology of empathy. You see, empathy isn't just one single feeling. It's actually split into different neurological processes. Narcissists generally have fully intact cognitive empathy. This means they can basically read your mind. They know what you're thinking, they know your deepest insecurities, and they know exactly which buttons to push to get a reaction out of you. This allows them to be master manipulators. But, and this is a huge but, they have severely impaired affective empathy. That's the emotional resonance part. That's the part of the brain that actually feels another person's pain. So they know exactly how to make you cry, but when the tears start falling, they don't feel a drop of your sadness. Plus, neuroimaging shows that in narcissists, a brain region called the right anterior insula is totally dysfunctional. It's overactive. They literally lack the internal neurological brakes required to stop their harmful behavior when they see you hurting. Because of this actual neurological deficit and their endless need for supply, you are almost never going to get a real apology. What you might get, though, is something called a faux apology. A fake apology. Sometimes they'll actually utter the words, "I'm sorry." And man, it can feel like a breakthrough. You think, yes, finally, they get it. But make no mistake, this isn't genuine remorse. It is a calculated performative tactic. So let's rapid fire through the major red flags of a fake apology so you can spot them a mile away. First up, they blame you. "I'm sorry you feel that way," or "I'm sorry you're so sensitive." Notice how that places the defect on your reaction, not their action. Second, it's super vague. "I'm sorry if I did anything wrong," instead of actually naming the harm they caused. Third, it's conditional. "I'll apologize if you admit you were wrong too." That's a negotiation, guys, not an apology. Fourth, and this is the biggest one, it lacks changed behavior. A real apology comes with growth. A fake apology just hits the reset button so they can run the exact same play on you tomorrow. And finally, they demand immediate forgiveness. They weaponize the apology to shut you up. Basically saying, "I said I'm sorry, why are you still mad?" Dragging you right back into submission. Knowing when they pull out this fake apology is absolutely vital. It usually happens inside a very specific, chaotic dynamic called the narcissistic abuse cycle. First, they idealize you. This is the love bombing phase. They mirror your desires, shower you with affection, and get you totally hooked. Then, they devalue you. The criticism starts, the affection drops, and they begin extracting that negative supply. Next is the discard, where they toss you aside once you're emotionally drained and no longer providing optimal supply. But the cycle rarely ends there. Then comes phase 4. Phase 4 is the Hoover, named after the vacuum cleaner. Hoovering is a manipulative tactic designed to suck you right back into the toxicity after you've finally gotten some distance. And this is exactly where those dramatic, fake apologies show up. A Hoover attempt might be a random text at 2 a.m. saying, "Thinking of you." Or it could be this massive theatrical apology where they claim they've completely changed. Listen to me, they aren't doing this because they realized they were wrong. They are doing it because they're running low on narcissistic supply, and they need to restore access to their favorite emotional fuel source, you. So how do you break out of this? How do you protect yourself when you realize the apology you've been waiting for is just an illusion or worse, a trap? Here are your actionable steps. Number 1. Recognize the fake apology for exactly what it is. It's manipulation, not closure. Number 2, reduce their emotional access to you. They feed on your reactions, so don't give them a single one. Number 3, disengage from the drama. Stop explaining, stop bargaining, stop trying to make them understand your pain. Their brain literally isn't wired to process it the way you need them to. And number 4, maintain strict boundaries. A lot of times, this means using the gray rock method, making yourself as boring and unresponsive as a gray rock so they just lose interest. Or, honestly, going completely no contact. Distance is absolutely the cleanest boundary you can set to starve them of their supply. And this brings us to the most absolutely crucial takeaway of this whole explainer. For anyone tuning in who has been trapped in this dark, exhausting loop, you have to shift your perspective. You cannot wait for them to hand you the key to your own freedom. True closure is not going to come from your abuser. It comes from within you. Stop waiting for an apology that will never come. Accept who they are and move forward. Their inability to apologize is not your fault. It's a reflection of their lack of empathy, not your worth. You don't need their validation to know that what you went through is real, and you certainly do not need their permission to start healing today. Knowledge is your absolute best defense against this kind of manipulation. If this explainer helped validate your experience or finally opened your eyes to the hidden mechanics of narcissism, please like and subscribe for Psychology Facts. And I really want to hear from you down in the comments. Are you still waiting for their apology? Share your story, support each other, and remember, you have the power to walk away and take your emotional fuel right along with you. Thanks for watching, and stay strong out there.